My wife, Emma, invited me to a party, but when I found out the nature of the event, it became clear she wanted to be with someone else. Emma was visibly upset as I drove us home from the Johnsons' gathering. My name is James Carter, and Emma's fury was evident from her posture. She was huddled in the far corner of the passenger seat, her frustration palpable. Her angry demeanor could have soured milk. I felt terrible for causing her such distress. After 10 years of marriage and 3 children, I had never seen her this angry. What was my mistake? I had inadvertently embarrassed her in front of her friends and ruined her evening. The Johnsons were known for their wild parties, and Emma had been excited to attend. However, she had conveniently left out one crucial detail about this particular gathering. It wasn't an ordinary event. Wives were expected to place their house keys into a bowl, and the husbands would pick a key and spend the night with the corresponding wife. As the party wound down, I realized what was about to happen and panicked. I had never been so furious with Emma. I pulled her into the kitchen and demanded to know if she was aware of the party's true nature. She smirked and admitted she knew but didn't tell me because she knew I wouldn't agree otherwise. Emma insisted it was just one night and would add some excitement to our marriage. She had already placed our key in the bowl, so we couldn't back out. Firmly disagreed, but Emma insisted, saying she wanted a night to feel desired and adventurous. She argued that it was just one night and wouldn't happen again. I was adamant that I would not participate and dragged her back into the living room to make a stand. I announced loudly that I wasn't sharing my wife with anyone. I sifted through the keys until I found ours and held it up. I declared that I wasn't aware of these rules beforehand and that I didn't believe in cheating. The party guests murmured discontent, and some gave me disapproving looks, but I didn't care. I told Emma she needed to decide, come with me and forget this night or stay and never come home. Emma, flushed with embarrassment, chose to leave. As we left, Emma berated me for embarrassing her and ruining the evening. I countered by pointing out that she had planned to be with someone else and that I reserved such intimacy for her alone. She insisted it was just one night and she would make it up to me. I expressed my deep hurt, saying that if she went through with it, our marriage would be over. Emma was insistent, saying she needed this experience and that it wouldn't affect us in the long run. I told her that if she went back into that house, it would be the end of our relationship. Despite her assurances, I couldn't see a future for us after such a betrayal. She stepped out of the car, and I sped away, leaving her standing there, stunned. I felt a deep sadness as I drove away, knowing our marriage was over. I had to protect my children from this fallout and move forward. Later that night, I received a call from Kevin Sanders, a guest from the party, who tried to persuade me to rejoin the party. I hung up on him, packed my things, and drove away, determined to end things decisively. I tore up our wedding license and smashed my wedding ring, then left the pieces on Emma's pillow before heading out. I stayed at a motel, feeling numb and devastated. Emma's messages only confirmed her lack of understanding of the gravity of her actions. Her insistence that it was just one night with someone new was a betrayal I couldn't accept. The next morning, I woke up, determined to protect my children and move on from Emma. I planned to find a lawyer and begin the divorce process. I called my mother to update her on the situation and to ensure she could care for the kids while I sorted things out. I then met with friends for advice and planned my next steps. The betrayal had been too great, and I knew I needed to focus on securing custody of my children and rebuilding my life. Emma's actions had ended our marriage, and I was resolved to face the future, no matter how challenging it might be. Whenever you're ready, that's doable, I said. Mark nodded, understanding the implications. Courts generally prefer both parents to be involved, provided they're fit. What about finances? Jake asked. Emma stays home with the kids while I earn a 6-figure salary. I have checking accounts, savings, investments, 401(k), IRAs, altogether, it's probably between $700,000 and $800,000, maybe more. I explained. Mark said. The court will likely split that evenly and award Emma the house and custody. However, if you can prove her infidelity, which it sounds like you can, you might avoid paying alimony. Do you know a good divorce lawyer? I asked. Actually, one of the partners at my firm is a top family law attorney in Mississippi. Her name is Ella Hastings. Should I set up a meeting? Mark offered. Absolutely. The sooner, the better. In the meantime, Jake suggested, I'll work on protecting your finances. Send me details of every dollar you have, and I'll get started. We raised our glasses once more, had a few more drinks, and then called it a night. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a sliver of relief as I drove back to my motel. My mind raced with everything I needed to do when my phone rang. It was Emma. After a moment of hesitation, I pulled over and answered. What do you want, Emma? I want my husband back home where he belongs. She cried. Well, your little fling with Robert makes that impossible. I replied firmly. She burst into tears. Don't say that, James. It was just one night. That's not enough for a divorce. Adultery is sufficient grounds for divorce in Mississippi. I told her. Why do you keep calling it adultery? It was just one night with someone new. Just a fling. When a married woman sleeps with someone new, even for one night, it's considered adultery. I warned you about this, Emma. Oh God, James, you can't do this to me. You brought this on yourself, Emma. What happened to you? Are you on pills, having a breakdown, or just unbelievably selfish? You didn't care about our kids or what I wanted. Now you face the consequences. I thought we had a good life, a happy family, a great connection. But you destroyed all that by sleeping with a stranger. We were happy, James. I just wanted to see what it was like with someone new. Just once. No harm done. No harm. You shattered our family in one night. You've broken my heart and shown no regard for my feelings. Remember me? Your husband, who loved you unconditionally and worked tirelessly for our family. You betrayed me, disregarded our vows, and now you expect me to be okay with it. I didn't mean to hurt you, James. I just needed to try something new. I love you. It wasn't about you, it was something I felt I needed. That's where you went wrong, Emma. Your night with Robert was about you, with no thought for me or our children. You thought you deserved a special night, but it cost you your marriage and damaged your reputation with family and friends. Maybe someday they'll forgive you, but I'll never forget, and I'll make sure everyone knows what you did. You called me a big baby for being upset about your infidelity. Let's see how you handle it when everyone knows you let Robert have you multiple times. No, James, please. My parents would be devastated. Too bad, Emma. You should have thought about that before you made your bed. Now lie in it. You seem to think this is no big deal, like getting a ticket. You threw away a solid marriage for a one-night stand. Was it worth it? I didn't think I'd lose everything. I thought you'd love me enough to understand. No one in their right mind would support their spouse cheating for the sake of trying something new. It doesn't work like that. What were you thinking, Emma? What made you do it? I didn't think it would bother you that much. What's the big deal about me sleeping with another guy a few times? It didn't change anything. I'm still yours. I just wanted to try something new once and then commit to you again. That showed a complete lack of respect for me. I pleaded with you not to do it, but you went ahead and destroyed what we built over the last decade. Our vows were sacred to me. Our bond gave us 3 incredible children who adore us. We were a united family, but now you've given away a part of yourself that was supposed to be mine alone. For what? A fleeting thrill? A meaningless fling? You call it a momentary lapse, but to me, it's a profound betrayal of everything we stood for. You got someone else, and you got it. For what? But in doing so, you threw away everything we valued. Part of me still cares, but I can't be with you anymore. Why are you being so difficult, James? It was just something I needed to do for myself. It doesn't change anything between us. Everything has changed, Emma. You're no longer mine alone. I begged you not to do this. I can't just forgive and forget. You betrayed me, and that's a wound that won't heal. I'm getting a lawyer and filing for divorce tomorrow, citing your infidelity. I'll name Robert and every other person involved. Think about the fallout when everyone finds out you're responsible for their social circle collapsing. Go to hell, Emma, and take your flings with you. Stepping into Ella Hastings's office felt like finding a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. She was sharp and unyielding, cutting straight to the core of the issue. She asked why I was seeking a divorce and what I hoped to achieve. I laid it all out. I wanted to split my assets with Emma, possibly giving her the house in exchange for less cash. I knew winning full custody of my kids was unlikely but demanded unrestricted access and wanted to avoid alimony. I played the recordings of Emma's admissions. Ella shook her head, astonished by Emma's recklessness. We may need a voice recognition expert to confirm it's her, she said. But unless we encounter a very lenient judge, these recordings should be enough. We spent the next hour discussing my objectives regarding Robert and the others at the wife-swapping event. I was skeptical about getting financial compensation from them but suggested publicly exposing their activity to cause them embarrassment. I agreed that would suffice. I paid her retainer and asked her to serve Emma quickly. She promised to keep me updated. On Tuesday afternoon, I picked up my kids from my mom's house and took them back to Emma's. When she saw them, she hugged and kissed them lovingly. She reached out to me, but I stepped back, causing her to tear up and plead for me to stay. I told her I couldn't but thought it best for the kids to be home with her. I'd picked them up for the weekend. Emma looked like she was struggling, and while I felt a twinge of sympathy, I reminded myself that she had brought this on herself. Her tough time was nothing compared to the anguish she had caused me. On Wednesday, I returned to work. I couldn't afford to neglect my job. I needed the stability, not just for the income but for my sanity. Dwelling on Emma's betrayal would drive me mad, and I couldn't let that happen for the sake of my children. On Thursday, I met Jake and Mark for dinner at a restaurant where we enjoyed charbroiled oysters and dirty martinis. I updated them on the kids and the divorce proceedings. Jake had researched ways to safeguard some of my money, and I gave him the green light to proceed. It might not be much, but it was something. Together, we devised a plan to cause trouble for the wife-swapping group without legal repercussions. Mark had a friend who worked as a reporter for the local newspaper. He suggested writing an editorial hinting at the prevalence of wife-swapping in our town and implying the involvement of certain business owners without naming names. By getting photos of couples entering and leaving the meetings, we could stir up enough controversy to disrupt the group. I shared what little information I had, and Mark agreed to start investigating. With our plan in motion, we parted ways. The weekend with my kids was amazing. We went shopping for new clothes, watched a Disney movie, and spent a whole day at the beach swimming and playing frisbee. My children were my top priority, and I vowed to always be there for them. On Monday morning, Mark called. His friend at the newspaper liked the story idea and was working on getting photos of the couples entering and leaving the Johnsons' house. Even if their faces were blurred, in a small town like ours, news travels fast. If everything went according to plan, this scandal could make headlines by the end of the week. I kept my fingers crossed. Emma continued to call, begging me to come back and promising she'd do anything to make things right, yet she never apologized or acknowledged her mistake. On Wednesday, my lawyer informed me that Emma would be served with the divorce papers on Friday morning. Jake also called with good news. He'd managed to secure about a third of my money by putting it in our kids' names. Mark followed up with news that his reporter friend had discovered the swingers club would be meeting again on Friday night at the Johnsons' house. The reporter planned to stake out in an unmarked van across the street, taking photos of everyone who attended. He also wanted another interview with me about the party. If everything went smoothly, the article would be published the following week. For the first time in a while, I felt a glimmer of hope. Friday came, and I waited for Emma's inevitable call after she received the divorce papers. Right on cue, it came at 2:30. My lawyer confirmed she'd been served. Moments later, my phone rang again. Seeing Emma's name, I couldn't help but chuckle. I thought about letting it go to voicemail but decided against it. "Hey Emma, what's up?" I answered. "What on earth did you do, James?" Her voice was sharp and accusatory. I filed for divorce, just like I said I would, I replied calmly. And I told you there wouldn't be a divorce. You filed for adultery. Spending one night with another man is considered adultery in Mississippi. I have to disagree with you there, Emma. According to Mississippi law, having sex with someone other than your spouse is considered adultery, and Robert definitely qualifies. She started crying. Why are you being so cruel, James? I love you. All Robert did was have sex with me a few times. It was just a fling. Oh, my mistake, Emma. I must have misunderstood that having sex outside of marriage is considered adultery. How could I have gotten that wrong? Let it go, Emma. It's done. I warned you countless times and pleaded with you not to do it, but you did it anyway. Now you have to face the consequences, and soon enough, you'll realize that your troubles aren't over yet. Goodbye, Emma. Have a miserable life. I hung up. The hardest part was that I still had feelings for Emma, maybe I always would, but I couldn't trust her anymore. I couldn't stay married to someone who cheated. I knew I shouldn't go to the Johnsons on Friday night, but I couldn't resist driving by just once to see what was going on. I also wanted to check if Emma's car was there, even though I doubted she'd attend this time. Her car wasn't there, but she could have gone with someone else. They usually only allowed couples, but they made an exception for her once, so who's to say they wouldn't do it again? I noticed a van parked across the street, likely where the reporter was. I wished him luck in exposing the scandal. The results came quickly. The next afternoon, Mark's reporter friend called, asking for some insider information, which I gladly provided. He mentioned he had taken over 100 photos and recognized more than a dozen prominent couples from the city. Interestingly, they weren't the same couples seen leaving 2 hours later. Mark had given him a photo of my wife, and he confirmed she wasn't among those entering or leaving the Johnsons' house. He wanted me to describe what I saw and experienced during one of the key parties. I did my best to explain how the keys were placed into a bowl, even though I never saw the part where men picked a key and left with the woman it belonged to. I had a good idea from Emma's descriptions and overhearing other couples talking about past parties. Before we ended the call, he asked if he could hint that he knew of a marriage that ended because of the parties, leaving kids to deal with their parents' divorce. I agreed, as long as no names were mentioned. The article was published in the Sunday edition, causing quite a stir. It made the front page with a large photo of couples entering and leaving their faces blurred. The story continued for 4 more pages with numerous additional photos. Despite efforts to hide faces, it was easy to identify participants from their cars and clothes. By Monday, the story was the talk of the town. Several ministers were interviewed about the decline in morality, and civic leaders condemned the situation. Lawsuits were filed, but nothing substantial came of them. Some businesses lost customers, and many couples ended up in divorce court. To me, it was all a fitting payback for the pain I endured from losing my wife and family. Even if people realized I was cheated on, I didn't care. I had my revenge, and that was all that mattered. Emma kept trying to win me back for months, but I was resolute. The divorce went through, and I got joint custody of our kids. We split time with them. When I have them for the month, Emma gets them on weekends and vice versa. It's not ideal, but we're managing. Since Emma didn't contest anything in the divorce, I decided not to share the recordings of her confessing her affair with her family or friends. As for the couples involved in the key parties, some ended up divorcing and leaving town, likely due to the scandal. Emma has started dating again, though I'm not sure she fully understands why her actions hurt me so much. But that's her problem now, and I wish her future husband luck. I've gone on dates with a few nice women, but I haven't found the right one to settle down with yet. Some have suggested moving in together, but I'm still cautious about giving a woman a key to my place.